Hi there, I'm Rod Bergeron, and thanks for joining me for another quick and easy watercolor painting. Today we're going to paint something that I seen yesterday actually. It's sort of early winter here in southern Ontario, and so I've wet the top sort of from the half down to the 1/3 line here of this page. And I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to not rinse it out, but I'm going to pick up some Payne's gray because I want there to be a very atmospheric sort of, wintry kind of cloudy sky, and that's what I'm going for here. So I'm going to take this brush and I'm not going to rinse it out. I'm going to put it right onto my Payne's gray, okay? And then I'm going to put a little bit of Payne's gray across here in a few places, and a little bit of Payne's gray here in a few places. Okay, just like that. So you see I'm tapping the brush onto the page. Now I'm going to rinse that brush out, and I'm going to pick up some yellow ochre. And I just want there to be a little bit of yellow ochre in the background here. You might not see any of this by the time we're done, but hopefully we're going to be able to just see a hint of yellow ochre in the background here. So again, I'm going to take this brush, and this is a 3/4 inch flat brush. And rinse it off really well. Shake a lot of the water off it, or you can take a tissue or a piece of paper towel and just dry it off a little bit, but you really want there to be some water left on it. I'm going to go right back into my Payne's gray, and I'm going to pick this up very intensely. So you can see I'm going to grab quite a bit of Payne's gray here. I'm going to tap that into this water, into the edge of where that's wet on the page. Okay, I'm going to pick this up a little bit more intensely, and again I'm going to tap it onto the page. Okay, this is my number one round watercolor brush, and I've sharpened the one end of it here. Now you don't have to use this. You could use a barbecue skewer, wooden toothpick, really anything that's wooden. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to scribe into that line there. I'm trying to make it look like there's some trees in the far background back here, okay? Just like that. And you can make these go in all different angles if you need to, okay? And I'm going to set this down. I'm going to go back to rinse that brush off, and I'm going to pick up a whole bunch of blue here. So this is just a blue wash that I have. It's fairly intense. And I'm just going to touch this along here in a couple of places. I want that blue to run up into those lines. All right, so I'm going to rinse this brush off, and you can see how this is starting to look very winter-like across here. Got kind of a dark line of that Payne's gray going across there, and I think we can probably just take our brush. So this would be a thirsty brush, so it was wet. I dried it off, and I'm just going to touch it along there and take some of that intensity out of there. You see that kind of all pushed down there, and I like some of the stuff that's going on in there right now. That's kind of pretty cool. I'm going to take this brush, I'm going to put it back into the yellow ochre, and I'm just going to touch this in a few spots like that. You can see that's all starting to push up into there very nicely. All right, yellow ochre. We're going to make a line coming across our field like this. And you can see this isn't really a brush stroke. It's really me tapping the page, okay? Tapping the page along in a line. And I'm just sort of making it allude to the idea that there's some snow, and this is some grass or some foliage that's sticking up through the snow, okay? Again, I'm gonna take this brush, put it back onto the yellow ochre, pick it up a little bit more intensely, just tap it into a few places like that. All right, that's coming along pretty good. Now we're gonna take this back to our scribing tool. So I could say scribing tool. This is my number one round watercolor brush again, but this is what I use to scribe lines into my painting. So what you're really doing is you're making a little valley for the you're making a little valley for the paint to run into. Okay, that's pretty nice right there. That's kind of what it is that I'm going for. But I'm going to rinse this brush out, knock some of the water off it. I'm going to pick up some sienna, okay? And I'm going to pick it up pretty intensely, a little bit more intensely than that. And I'm going to touch this in a few places. Again, the same deal, just touch it in a few places, not everywhere, okay? And then back to the scribing tool. I'm going to scribe out of that. One last thing here. Rinse your brush out really good. I'm going to put a little bit of dark across this area, across the front. So what it is I'm going to do is I'm going to take this brush. I rinsed it out really well. I'm going to go back to the Payne's Gray. I'm going to pick up a whole bunch of Payne's Gray. And that's all I'm going to do. Just touch it in those very few places. Okay, just like that. And now we're just going to walk away, right? Don't try to do too much more to it than that. We want all these colors to bleed and go to wherever it is they're going to go naturally, okay? So you don't want to use a hair dryer on this right now. Let's just let this completely air dry and see what we get. Okay, I think there's a lot more that we could do to this particular painting, and I think what we could do here is add some trees to it. So I have a number 4 round watercolor brush, and I have some Payne's Gray on it, and I'm just going to put in a few trees, and I'm going to start from the bottom, and I'm going to go over these trees a couple of times, and I'm just going to keep expanding the tree like this, and I'm going to lift off at the end, okay? So I'm going to go across here, and I'm just going to flick off at the end like that. Okay, and you'll get a nice sort of point going on to that. I'm going to pick up some more Payne's Gray, and I'm just going to keep doing this a couple of times across here. And don't worry about if it's dark enough at this point, because we're going to go back over this several times until we can build up some really good darkness. Okay, so keep going. You see I'm making long linear lines, and then I just keep picking up more paint and then flick off at the end. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to put some trees in across this. You know, and this is a winter scene, so we don't have to worry about foliage. We don't have to worry about, you know, any grasses or anything in the foreground. And we can just keep building up our trees and just keep flicking off at the end. Pick up new paint every time. Long linear lines, okay? And run it right off the page. So start off the page and then make your marks come right off the page. And you can go back through this and add a few more smaller branches on here if you wish. You know, wherever it is that you think you need to put a branch, put one in. It's your painting. All right, now we need this to completely dry. All right, so take the hair dryer to it and dry this up completely. Okay, I've changed brushes now. Now I have a number 1 round watercolor brush. This is the one that you see me scribing with quite often, that I've sharpened the one end of it. So I have my Payne's Gray picked up a little bit more intensely this time. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go start on the trunk, and I'm going to go up wherever it is that I think I need another branch, or I want to make a branch darker, whatever the case may be. Just flick with your wrist like that to get the little points, okay? Just like that. All right, we need to dry this. Okay, so you can see how this has started to, the ones that are lighter are like pushed way back into the background, right? Like you can see across here. And the ones that are darker are more in the foreground. Okay, so I have my Payne's Gray very, very thick, very saturated right now. And I'm just going to go back and I'm going to pick up a little bit of Payne's gray. Okay, like this is not, you shouldn't be looking for a lot of pigment, and you're not going to go over these many times. You're just going to go over each one of them a select couple of places, okay? Not every place. And again, you're going to do the same thing here. See, I made a little bit of a boo-boo there. I'll have to come back and fix that. Just like that. All right, that's not too bad. Now, I don't know if I'm going to include this in the video, but I have this little area right here that has a little bit of a boo-boo on it. So I'm just going to try to touch that a little bit like that. And then take this tissue and just blot that. If it turns out, we'll include it in the video, and if it doesn't turn out, we'll just delete it. And just touch that like that, and then a little bit more. And this is some of the great things about watercolor paper, is that you can really do a lot of edits if you have to. I'm just going to try this one more time. I'm just going to wet this. See if I can extract that one more time. It's not too bad. All right, so you can see how the addition of these trees really push that stuff in the background way back, and how it makes the foreground trees look like they're very close to us. And it even makes this brown, this yellow ochre and sienna, it makes that into the midground now. All right, so this is now midground, and puts these trees into the foreground. And building up the layers, you can see how this looks like it's a branch that's on the back side of the tree, and this looks like it's a branch on the front side of the tree. That's why we do it in many layers like that. Let's see what happens when we put our little mat on here. Yeah, that turned out pretty nice, right? I like it. I'd love to know what you think of it. Let me know in the comment section. Also, if you have a question or a comment, don't be afraid to ask. You know, I really want to help out. So if there's something I can help you out with, I'd love to be able to help you. Also, if you're currently a subscriber, thanks a lot. And if you're not currently a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you again next time.